Hello and welcome everyone. I am delighted to be here with you all today for this, our brand new series at the Egypt Exploration Society, a series of research lectures exploring some of the projects that the EES has supported. So the Heritage at Risk grants supported projects following the COVID pandemic. And this project is slightly different from what the EES normally funds, but nonetheless, we are very excited to have had the opportunity to support Shubra's archive. And we will be finding out more today in Shubra's archive and Cairo's Trams, a community archive of a changing city. And introducing our speaker for today and director of this archive, director and founder of this archive, Mina Ibrahim, an anthropologist and archivist from Cairo, Egypt, who holds a doctoral degree in cultural studies. So he is the founder of Shubra's Archive, Egypt's first neighbourhood communal archival hub. His debut book, Identity, Marginalisation, Activism and Victimhood in Egypt, Misfits in the Coptic Christian Community, is based on field research in different Egyptian cities. Currently, he is postdoctoral research associate at the University of Marburg, Germany, focusing on human rights discourses in migration societies. So once again, thank you so much, Mina, for joining us. I think I could say on behalf of all of us at the EES and the attendees here today, thank you so much for this very interesting update on your EES supported project. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks, Charlotte, and thanks everyone for joining me today. And I'm so glad that for this opportunity to present the work in front of friends and maybe members of Egypt Exploration Society today. As Charlotte said, we got this grant back in 2022, actually, which was between 2021 and 2022. Thanks to our friend Carl Graves and also Fatma Kishk, who used to work also with Egypt Exploration Society, the Egyptian archaeologist, and Carl, of course, is also working for Egypt Exploration Society. And actually, the grant for me was kind of very helpful to do the project. But at the same time, it was very kind of interesting because Egypt Exploration Society, for me, as I know it, and as I know Fatma, my friend, mainly is focusing on archaeology and so ancient Egyptian monuments, ancient Egyptian history, more or less. But I think the Heritage at Risk, even talking with Carl Graves as well, it was really interesting opportunity for both Egypt Exploration Society to expand, on other projects or other understandings of heritage. So it's not just the monuments, not just the pyramids, not just, the pharaonic heritage, actually, but also things that are connected to modern history. And this is, for me, was interesting. And that's connected to Shubra's work as well, because in Shubra, we are, just let me change the slide. Yeah. So in Shubra, actually, we are interested in, if you want, we are an interdisciplinary archival hub in Cairo, in Shubra, which is a northern, it's a neighborhood in North Cairo. And also we are interested in using different methods, different tools. We are interested in putting different methods in conversation with each other. So, for example, we use oral history interviews. We use as well paper archives. And as well, we use, if you want, cultural heritage from movies, songs, comic stories, and even newspapers, magazines, connected to paper archives as well. But we are interested in putting all of these methods together and to build out of them our archive. So our archive is not just based on paper archives, but also based on linking these archives with people's everyday lives. I'm linking these archives with people's everyday interactions. So we use this kind of, if you want, interdisciplinary or mix of methods. We put it in practice in our first project, which was about the Cairo tramways. So the project of Cairo, of investigating Cairo tramways that existed in Cairo between 1896 until 2018, 2019, when the last tram car was removed from Cairo streets sadly for me, but happily for maybe other people, that Cairo's tram lines are actually entered Cairo streets and were deinstalled from Cairo streets. For what we discovered that what happened actually, that this was done for the same reason, which is mainly the modernization of Cairo. And this is very interesting point that I would like to further investigate with you today. But before that, very quickly, the project of Cairo's Tram was our first learning research program that we started 2021, 2022. And currently, we have another project called Family House, Home as Archive of a Changing City. This is our second learning research program between 2023 2024, where in Shubra we invite people, researchers, artists from different disciplines, from different backgrounds, to learn some of our methods, of our tools that I shared with you, the oral history, the archival methods, the paper archival methods, and then to implement these methods, these tools into individual projects connected to the overall theme, which was Cairo's tramways, the first project, and now it's the concept of family house and how we can connect to it. We are actually having potential projects coming in the loop, inshallah. Like we have things connected to missionary spaces. In Shubra, we have also things related to football as well, and the history of football in Shubra and in Cairo in general. But these are coming in the coming years, if not in the coming months, maybe. I will talk about the last thing, which is the PAC, the Participatory Archival Charter, but I will leave it at the end. For now, I just want to present to you our outputs for the project, which resulted again from the different methods. This is about the Tram project from the different methods. As you can see, the Egypt Exploration Society was one of the main funders of the project, together with the American University in Cairo and the Mellon Foundation. In the project or in the book, and also this is a flyer of our one of our exhibitions actually that we did thanks to Egypt Exploration Society, but also we did another exhibition at the American University in Cairo and another one in Shubra itself, where the Shubra's archive is based. So both our exhibition and our book, plus also a podcast that we did in Arabic as well, we're keen, or we're concerned of two things. First of all, the different methods that I keep to mention for the third time now, and plus also the different audience. In Shubra, we are very interested in different audience, and we are concerned at how different audience, different people in Egypt and outside Egypt will respond or will interact with our book. So, and this is something that doesn't have an answer, what I'm going to say now. I mean, not the problem, but I mean the puzzle that I'm going to propose now. But it's mainly essential part of our work. So I will recall two things. The first is a book talk. So in March this year, together with other authors in the book. So I edited this book together with my friend Tamer Nadi. But in the book, there are different chapters, different authors wrote inside the book. One of them actually is present with us now in the Zoom, Yasmin Tariq. So in the book talk, actually, I proposed the question to the audience, asking the people, are you interested, or did you feel kind of disappointed that the tram lines were deinstalled from Cairo, that were removed from Cairo? And the answer that I got, that most of the people attending the book talk, it's actually with the book talk, just to give you an idea, it was held in one of Cairo's neighborhoods. The audience were mainly residents, kind of not, they are not really kind of specialized in social sciences or humanities, but they are residents, like, who are actually interested in the history of the neighborhood and the history of Cairo. So they were feel very sad about the urban changes that are happening and that happened in Cairo, that led to the gradual deinstallation of the tram lines from Cairo streets. And many of them actually were talking about that, that they really missed the tram lines, how they were using it, and how they, were really sad about it. And then I did during the talk, I did what I usually like to do when I teach, just to provoke people, right? To say the counter narrative. Although me myself, I'm also sad about the deinstallation of the tram lines, and I say this without any shame, right? But I told them the opposite, you know. I just play the other like party of the debate, and asked them, okay, but do you know that when the tram lines were installed in Cairo, they were also installed based on urban changes that also displaced people from their houses, that also closed shops, that also radically changed a lot of people's lives. And actually, when it was installed at the beginning in 1896, many people didn't like it. And then they told me, okay, but we are living now, you know, and then we are just, you know, we were happy with it now. And our lives now are were kind of negatively affected. Sometimes, for example, people would mainly depend on the tram lines to go to their work, or even take it as a leisurely space, right? To use it as a leisurely space where they just can see, you know, Cairo streets through the windows of the tram cars. Others even were using it because it was cheap as well, like a kind of public transportation, cheaper than taking a taxi or even taking a bus. So they were concerned more about their current times. But then again, I insisted on, okay, but then our maybe ancestors, our grandparents and grandparents, maybe they didn't like it at the time. And as I said, I don't have an answer to this puzzle, right? Because using this kind of debate, you know, whether we liked tram lines or didn't like it, whether we liked when it was deinstalled or we didn't like it, it's actually not something. It's of course part of our individual preferences, right? And maybe you can even do this with any changes that happen in your cities or in your neighborhoods. But at the same time, part of our work in Shubra's archive is really to connect what people say. So our interviews with the people, oral history interviews with the people, whether they like it or not, they like the tram lines or not, and to link it to the paper archives and try to build a conversation between them. So what we did in this book, and also what we do also in our projects, that we are playing a game, kind of a game. So we take the paper archives that we actually buy, or that we accidentally find in a second market, you know, at a street vendor or something, and we try to build interviews, questions for the people that we will meet for the oral history interviews. And this is something that is kind of rarely done in academic work, in formal academic work, because usually, you know, in methods or methodological, there are kind of methodological divisions, right? If you want, like, historians would go to the paper archives, maybe anthropologists would, okay, rely somehow on oral history interviews, but mainly on ethnographic field work and participant observation. But we are, in order to be kind of inclusive space, not only for audience, different audience, but also for different researchers who might have different backgrounds and different research interests and different disciplines belonging as well. So we try to make this game, right? To build oral history interviews or interviews questions out of the paper archives, and the opposite, to read people's answers to our questions in the interviews we do with them, to read these answers and to take them as kind of interpretation of the paper archives. Let me give you an example. So one thing, for instance, we did is the people we in the archives, we found a complaint written by a person who was complaining about the noise done by the tram cars. That was in the early 20th century, I think 1913, 1914, something like that. And this is part of the archives that we have for the project in Shubra. And then, so what we did actually, that during our interviews, we also found people who actually were complaining about also how the tram lines were very at the end of their, you know, at the end of its life cycle. You know, in Cairo, they were also very slow. They were very kind of, there was no maintenance happening to them. So we tried to connect the dots between them. So what we did actually is we, together with the help of a friend, Moira Adel, our colleague also in Shubra's archive, we built kind of a comic story, building a human relationship between this person who wrote the complaint and our interlocutor or our interviewee, as if this interlocutor that we did with him the interview is the grandson of the person who wrote the complaint. And we did kind of a comic story. It's actually, if you want, it's an extra publication or extra thing that we sell with the book, actually. It's available in Arabic as well. So we kind of bring the complaint, very real thing that happened, and we quoted the person with whom we did the interview, and we built with them a fictional relationship. But this is, again, was one of our very first experiments that we do in order to link how different people in different times they relate to the same object, which is in this case the tram lines. But then you can see it with football, with family house, with missionary spaces, that the other projects that we are working on as well. So the thing is to link what we to invite historians, to invite like people who are mainly interested in paper archives, to build a conversation with anthropologists or sociologists, people who mainly do fieldwork research, people who mainly are interested in talking to people. Because we believe in Shubra that things like one thing is not enough, or one solution, one method is not enough. We should actually always build conversations between different methods. So this is for the methods, right? But for the audience, back to the audience, so there is the concept of nostalgia, right, that we are always dealing with, right? Whether we look at the past days and we think, you know, that past days are better than now, and then now will be better than tomorrow, you know, and this kind of even loop that we are living in. So interestingly, you know, whenever you mention nostalgia in academia or academic settings, maybe many of you would be part of the maybe academic setting or venue, we'd always make this, right, nostalgia, and then we'll be always talking about it in a very kind of, you know, yeah, defensive way, like, yeah, we don't mean nostalgia, or we are not interested in nostalgia, we just, you know. And then, but then when you talk to people, they are always like, you know, people who are maybe again not specialized in academia, they are always interested in nostalgia. They say, we have nostalgia to the tram, we have nostalgia to getting into the tram and going to this park, we have nostalgia to actually the old days when we were kind of thinking of taking when my father was taking me on a weekend and getting into kind of a road trip with the tram car. So how can we balance, right? Because usually there is you know that there is difference usually between history and memory, right? So there is kind of history that if you check the history of the tram lines according to the paper archives and according to police records, according to newspapers, I mean, there was sexual harassment in the past in the tram line, in the tram cars. Like now, there's sexual harassment in public transportation. There was accidents. Like, I mean, there are a lot of people who were killed actually because of the tram cars. There were also kind of, as I mentioned, complaints by people complaining about the noise of the tram, or complaining that the tram cars were not coming at their time. You know, the schedules are usually not working well. So this is history. This is kind of what we can get from this. So the history is not just about the good days of the tram lines, you know, when people were like happily living, right? But there is the memory as well. There's a memory that we should respect, you know, and this we should also work on, and we should not belittle, because since we chose to work with people, since we chose not only to work with archives, with paper archives, and we choose oral history, sorry, as a method to work with. So we should also think of how people's memory matter, right? And to try to build these kind of conversations between people's memory and the history, right? And it's not about convincing people actually that this is what you have about what you have with your memory is wrong and that is the history, but no, it's actually to provide this space for conversation. And this is actually what we are interested in doing with Shubra, that we are not only interested in writing books. This is actually was our first book, and there is another book that is coming later in this year, but also with exhibitions as well that we do. And through the exhibitions, we do maybe open talks, we do side, talks, public conversations with people who are interested in the theme we are covering. So, and that's why when we did this book talk back in March, it was really interesting to really kind of play this memory history thing and play this nostalgia, but and also to impose, actually to propose or to talk about actually the dark history of the tram. Like I can tell you something, for example, like I told the people that I told them the tram lines were introduced by a Belgian company, and at that time, Belgium was, as we know, that it was a, a, a colonizing force. It was a colonizer, right? And it was actually committing, I mean, the Belgian regime at that time was committing a lot of crimes in many parts of Africa, right? To mention Congo, for instance. So, so this money, how we can think of how this was part maybe of the Belgian empire or the Belgian state at that time, and how they introduced the tramline. So, I mean, so just to talk about how it was part of the economic power of Belgium, who was again committing crimes in Congo, so just to link things together and even to move beyond the national boundaries of Egypt. But then you can still find people saying, yeah, but we still like the tram. And then we go further, back and forth with these kind of sentences and this kind of debates. But for me, this kind of dialectic is really interesting in order to be available and be present for people, different audiences and different categories of the Egyptian population, whose relationship to the tram or to anything that we work on are different. And I think this is actually part of our mission. If you want, talking about mission, this is part of our mission as a community, people's-oriented archival hub or people-oriented archival center, that we don't impose categories, we don't impose readings of history, right? Yesterday, we were having another talk with IFAO, the French Institute for Archaeology in Cairo. Like two of my colleagues, Yasmin and Iman, were giving also a talk, and where they were talking about this kind of people's-oriented archive. So we are not doing people's-oriented history. We are not making a reading of history. Maybe we do some, but our main mission is to build an archival collection of different themes, of different topics, open one, connected to Shubra and connected to other neighborhoods in Cairo as well, where the residents would come. That's our big mission, where the residents would come and then they would kind of continue reading, do readings and do debates based on these archives and based on their conversations with each other, based on the interviews they will do with each other. So our students who attend our programs, our learning research programs, later become researchers who do interviews, and then the people with whom we do the interviews later join our programs, and we go into this circle. To go like further, like our project with the tram, as I mentioned, is the first. The second is a family house, but in the middle, actually, also during the year 2022, we did a small workshop called Leisurely Shubra. As you can see, documentation of entertainment and social practice in Shubra. It was with the partnership of Khazana School of Heritage in Cairo, and also funded by CEDAJ, which is a French research institute in Cairo. Actually, one of our motivations to do this project as well was our project of the tram, because as I mentioned, tram projects, the tram lines or the tram cars were used as a leisurely space for some people. So actually they inspired us later to further expand of meanings of leisure, meanings of entertainment in Shubra. What you can see on the map is actually the map of Shubra in North Cairo. There is the Nile, right? And then there is what you can see, these small stickers are actually what the people perceive as leisurely spaces, like, right? So in the event that we did, again, we invited the people to, we give them stickers. So these are our categories, right, that we built, maybe a kiosk, a church theater, a park, walking by the Nile, a coffee house, even a fruit shop, whatever it is, that they can perceive as leisurely spaces. And then they would put the stickers on the map. So again, as you can see, we academically speaking, right, this would be very nostalgic, right? This would be very kind of, okay, but people are just remembering the old days, the old golden days, of what they were doing before, maybe before the parks. Sadly, now in Shubra and in other districts in Cairo are now deserted, and now turned into just highways and buildings. Also, cinemas, Shubra used to have more than 20 cinemas. Now there is none, or just there is one cinema that is placed in a shopping mall. So people, of course, would remember this. So, for academics, no, the question of nostalgia, let's further work on it and let's just make a further reading on it. And this I can do in an academic paper. But in Shubra itself, I'm interested in investigating, okay, talking more with people about the nostalgia, thinking with people more about the nostalgia, and try to again bring this, as I said, the history, right, and put it in conversation with their memory. So this is just to make kind of, again, an example of how we put history and memory, or paper archives and oral history interviews together. There is just a short, very short video, maybe an indication also of the new project, the family house that you are working on. And then I will end very quickly with the participatory archival chat. So maybe if I can just play it for you just a few seconds. Yeah, so this is just a quick thing, a quick teaser, if you want, of our new project now, Family House. It's, again, as you can see, of a building. Our actually friend George Markarius, who is also a photographer and also filmmaker. He was taking, a snapshot or a second of this building every day until it was completely demolished. And then again, this kind of how we can, so as you can see, the title for today is actually a combination between our Tram project and our current project, which is a changing city. So what debates happen in a changing city? What do people say when there are these, very fast, drastic urban changes that are happening in Cairo, but also in Egypt, that we cannot follow, right? For me, to defend nostalgia somehow, nostalgia can be a mechanism, right? That can be, if you want, a medicine, or it can be a painkiller, actually, that people can use in order to, telling their nostalgic memories, that people can use in order to face these drastic changes that are happening without their taking their opinion. People are just waking up, no trams, waking up, no park, waking up, no cinema. So talking about these memories, and that's what also our mission, part of our mission in Shubra as well, that to capture these memories, this nostalgia, and to respect it in order to help people to, if you want to, not to fight back, this would be a big word, but at least to internally resist, right? Or to what they see or what they witness on a daily life in Cairo. So very finally, the PAC, the Participatory Archival Charter, I want to share with you this. So this is an agenda, we call it Shubra's Archive Agenda. This is its first edition, actually. It was curated by, again, Yasmin, who's joining us today, and by myself. And inside it, it's actually divided into different this is our very recent output, actually. Different like projects. So it's divided into sections. Each section is a project, mainly tram lines, the leisurely Shubra, the family house, the football project, and what we called as well archiving everyday life, which is actually a general project that we did as an exhibition last year. But to mention very quick thing about the participant archival charter. So mainly what we are trying to do through it and through this agenda as well is not to accumulate archives. We are not interested in accumulating paper archives, but we are more interested in helping people to how to curate, to build categories, to make kind of, so this agenda is like kind of a tool that they can use in order to write down what they think about the urban changes happening to them, to provide them again with the tools, the different methods that I mentioned, and to help them to curate their own private family archives, and also to build their own categories. So maybe they have other projects in mind. Maybe they are not interested in any of our projects that I mentioned here, right? But maybe they have other things that they want to put it down in this agenda. So this agenda is actually, we offer it in Shubra for the residents in Shubra and other neighborhoods in order to help them to understand these urban changes happening to them. And then we call them later, we ask them later to bring the agendas in order to build this community dialogue with the people who are interested in archiving their lives. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mina. What a brilliant start to our new research lecture series, and I think a great way to introduce again the Heritage at Risk projects and how they demonstrate the value of both tangible but intangible cultural heritage across Egypt in this case. So thank you so much for a brilliant talk. Well, thank you so much.
No, thanks a lot, Charlotte, for this. Yeah, thank you so much. It was great. I mean, I'm happy even to open the lecture series with you, and that was an honor. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Well, we've been honoured to have you and explore just one element of the Heritage at Risk projects and how exciting it is, and we'll definitely be following your journey as you expand and do exciting things in future. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to everyone who attended, and we hope to see you at another EES event soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye.